pay real attention to how he's laying out his journey through entrepreneurship. He started out, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Mr. Lore did not start out with any money at all, and he's now probably worth maybe $3 or $4 billion. So he's done a lot of amazing things. But he has launched several what I would call high net worth, high growth businesses, which are the types of businesses that you're going to have to write business plans for in 432, which is the capstone course in entrepreneurship. So everybody should pay attention to what he talks about as far as pitches, about venture capital, about getting funding for all of his businesses, about having to pivot. His newest business, it's called Wonder, and it's an integrated takeout food company and everything like that. So pay attention to all those, I guess you'd say, all the ways he's been able to raise capital and change and pivot and come up with these great visions, because you'll learn a great deal, a great deal. And the guy is legit. I mean, he's done some amazing things over the last 20 or 30 years. So without further ado, we're going to watch the video, and then I'll come back up after we watch the video and take questions for as long as you wish about anything, and then we'll call it a night. So enjoy the film, and I'll see you in about 40 minutes.
Mr. Lore, listen, we appreciate your willingness to share your time and your experience, and it's very, very kind of you. The first thing I'd like to say is I've never seen a resume that's this incredible in my entire life. We could spend days talking about everything, but I just want to hit your highlights and everything like that. So what I'd like to start at is, I know you grew up on Staten Island in New Jersey. Were your parents entrepreneurs, or where did you get the bug for being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. My parents had me when they were 21 and 20 years old. Grew up in Staten Island, New York, as you said, lived on top of my grandparents, and just watched my dad. He didn't go to college. He was out literally selling vacuum cleaners door to door, as sort of like the first memory I had of him, doing something entrepreneurial. And he tried lots of different things, trying to make a buck, and he was able to, make a living and put food on the table and, raise a family. And I give him a lot of credit. He was never around. He worked his, butt off. But I definitely got that sort of work ethic from him, and
that's a good start in life. My father was pretty much like yours, and I guess that's where I learned it, work ethic and pushing forward and everything. You went to Bucknell in the 1990s, and this had to be a very opportune time for you because the internet just went commercial in 1989. Mm-hmm. And so it was it was perfect timing for you. You had your avenue all set for you. What attracted you to the internet? I mean, you are an internet guru.
Well, what happened was, when I graduated in 1993 from Bucknell, and at that time, even though it was still like internet was sort of hot, I didn't know how to get inside a startup. I didn't have any money to do a startup. So I went into banking. Oh. Actually, the first 6.5 years of my career was in banking. I was at Bankers Trust, Credit Suisse First Boston, Sanwa Bank. And it wasn't until 1999 that I couldn't take it anymore. That's right before the market crashed. It was peaking. The NASDAQ was going crazy, all these startups. And I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I just went in my boss's office one day and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to quit and become an entrepreneur." And he just literally laughed at me and he goes, "That's really funny. Like, do you know what I'm paying you?" And I was like, "No, I know." And I'm like, "But I need to do this." And he was like, "Okay, so you must have a really big idea." "No, I don't have an idea yet." "So you must have somebody that's going to fund you." "No, no, I need to go all in and I need to just quit and do this. And And he's like, well, you're serious. I said, yeah, I'm serious. I'm going to do this. And he said, well, I don't know what you're doing, but like count me in for your first 50 grand. And
Really?
that's how I got started. And I didn't know anyone with money. I basically, my first startup, I got 60 angel investors to each put in on average about 80 grand. So I raised 5 million just from angels, and basically had to pitch like a few hundred angel investors to get those 80. And all I did for months was pitch, you know, and yeah, it was just one person at a time, no connections at all.
Well, when you talk about pitching, when I always talk about pitching angel investors, they always say, well, should you pitch a bunch of angel investors in one room? Should you have more than one? And I always say no, because and never have, one-on-one.
No way. No.
I know. You don't want, if you pitch a bunch of people and one person hates it, they can just poison the whole well.
Group think, it goes negative real fast, especially when your hit rate, typically I find in my career I counted it. I was 890 venture capital pitches before this round I'm doing now, and I've done about 35. So I'm like 925 venture capital pitches so far. And like, I'd say my hit rate is about 1 in 12 will invest.
Right.
And so like you said, same thing with angels, 1 in 12, maybe you get 12 people in a room. You think that one person is it's the 11 people saying there's no way. There's no way. Right.
No.
I always realize I mentor and help entrepreneurs raise money, and they'll go and like have 10 meetings, and they're like, no, nobody wants to give me money. I said, how many pitches did you do? They said, it must be like 10. I'm like, 10? Like, I'm 1 for 12, and I'm pretty damn good at pitching and making money. No, 10 is not. You got to if you go 0 for 40, 0 for 50, maybe you got to like rethink things.
Well, if you go 0 for 40 or 50, you need to sit down with another entrepreneur and listen to and pitch them and see what you're doing wrong. But I love your story. That is the greatest story in the world. And my hit rate's 1 out of 12 or whatever. That is such a true story. I'm going to put I'm going to put this part of the tape in my classrooms where they can listen to you and say, this is what it takes. You got to pitch all the time.
You got to be, this round of financing I'm doing for my new startup Wonder, I'm going to have probably in the end, 150 unique pitches, and then multiple pitches to the same people that are more interested. But this is going to be a record for me. I think it's going to be 150 pitches. So it is, like you're pitching, 25 to 30 pitches a week for 5 to 6 weeks straight. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'm right in the middle of it. I'm a little exhausted because I was pitching today, but that's what you got to do,
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Well, let's talk. Now that I found out that you're a banker and that's where you got all of your financial wherewithal, if you can work for a bank and have that type of background in finance, that's got to help you out a great deal as far as putting numbers and everything together for financials. And that's really important because whenever you send out a business plan or something, they're going to have some consulting group go over your numbers like left and right and backwards and forwards and everything. But let's talk about your first startup, if you don't mind. I know it was called The Pit.
Yeah.
And you said that you talked about all the angel investors you got. Could you tell me or our audience and everything about that particular startup and, what it meant to you to do it first time?
Yeah. So, I just dove in, had my 2 best friends from grammar school, got them to quit. One was a lawyer. He quit his law just after I did the banking. And then our other friend too, he did his MBA, JD, and he joined as well. And it was a passion. Like we love sports, and we created the first, sports stock market online at the time. And this was right before the NASDAQ crashed. So we raised the money from the angels.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe it was 6 months later, That's when the NASDAQ crashed, like the biggest crash it's ever had. Went from like 5,000 to 2,000 or some crazy number like that. And could not raise money. It was terrible fundraising market. And so we sold the company to Topps, the bazooka gum and baseball manufacturer. And that all happened within the time we started, raised the money, and then the company was like less than a year old, and then sold it. And so it's like the full end-to-end experience of raising money, building the company, selling it, all in less than 18 months, and just learned some great lessons, incredible lessons. And I said the biggest lesson was just on how to manage investors and how to think about like what I do now. And this is, I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss this, but I missed it too in my first one, is when you're raising money, you're thinking about what exactly do I need to do with this money before I'm in a position to raise that next round of financing. And every round of financing has a certain hurdle that you need to cross to get into that next group of investors. So there are the investors that are, pre-seed investors, and they will invest in you and the big vision. And that's really it. And you can sell them on the vision. Then seed, you want to have built something, a product. Maybe you have some customers that, some testimonials, early users that say they love it. And you can get an increase in valuation after you build it, improve that. But then you get an amount of money in that round. And now the next round, you're going to have some real like traction in revenue, month over month growth, like real customer love and stats on repeat rates, net promoter score, start to show that you can acquire customers at an attractive rate. So you kind of like, you should have all the things that you want to accomplish over the period that money is going to burn before you get to the next round. And what I always do as a rule of thumb is to try and double the valuation every time I raise and double the amount of money I raise. So I'll start with, let's say you start with $1.5 million at a $5 million valuation. Then you want to raise 3 million on a 10 and 6 on a 20 and 12 on a 40. And I've pretty much in almost every round that I've done across all my startups, it's pretty much been like that. Double the raise amount, double the valuation all the way through.
Right.
Not the first one, of course, because I didn't know what I was doing then. But in diapers.com, which I know you'll probably ask me about.
That's the next thing we've got. You can go straight into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with my next startup, diapers.com, just had a lot more knowledge. And diapers.com was basically a website that sold everything for your baby. So everything from diapers, wipes, and formula to strollers and car seats and baby clothes and all that stuff. It was meant to be a specialty retailer. And then we added a specialty retailer in pets called WAG, and a specialty retailer in like a drugstore called Soap. And we had 10 different websites, all with a shared cart. But the idea was to compete with Amazon. This was back in 2004. Rather than having an everything store in one place, it would be all these specialized websites that were held together by a common shopping cart and a common back end. And we're doing really well. Over that 5-year period, we grew it from nothing to over 300 million in revenue. And then, Amazon, didn't like the traction we were getting. And, they cut the price of diapers by 30% on their website.
Whoa, just to drive your profit margins down?
Yep. Just kind of soften us. Exactly.
And that killed your valuation, I imagine.
It made it really difficult to raise money. That was for sure. So, you can't beat them, join them. So we sold to Amazon. They paid 550 million, which, by all accounts was a good exit. We had raised a total of 50 million of capital over those 5 years. So it was a nice exit. And we went inside Amazon and worked inside Amazon, growing the company we created for the next little over 2 years.
Right.
Before.
I can empathize with you. During the .com bust, my company that I sold. I sold one company long before then, but the second company I started, I got crammed down, during that dot-com bust. You
Yeah.
get crammed down. There's nothing you can do. The business was running perfectly. The revenues were all good. Everything was great. We were hitting all of our numbers. But the thing is, if there's a cram down, you can't get money, and there's nothing you can do.
Nope.
There's not I had to sell too. I had to sell because the thing is, you can't get capital to grow, and you can't stay where you are. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
One reason why startups fail, you can't raise money. That's it.
Exactly.
If you can raise money, you just keep going, right? So it's always about raising money, and raising money is always about the next round, not the round you're raising for. Because when you're raising for this round, if you're not thinking about the next round and thinking about how this capital gets you to the next round and make sure there's enough capital to get you there, then you might as well stop now. Like you have to make sure that the business is capitalized in the right way.
Right. And when you're in a when you're in a when you're in a growth mode, you just burn through capital.
Yep.
Just I want to talk about your next business because I love this business. I'm actually a fan of this business. So this is one, not so much diapers, but Jet. I love that business, and it's quite exciting. So tell me about that. Tell me about starting it and everything about it and everything like that. I know you started it it's a direct competitor against Amazon, so I love it.
That was a rocket ship. So after diapers, it was 5 years, and then 2 years inside Amazon. That was a 7-year run. When we started Jet, we raised I think it was like a $50 million seed round on a business plan, and launched the company in less than a year. And then 10 months later, we got to $1 billion in revenue, nearly run rate. And then soon after sold it to Walmart for $3 billion. So it was it was only, I think 2 years and 2 months from the business plan pitch to the Walmart sale. So it was absolutely insane. I mean, talk about building the plane as it's flying. That's exactly what we're doing. So that was quite an experience. And then after Walmart bought it, I went inside Walmart and became the CEO of Walmart's e-commerce business, which is a whole other story. Did that for over 4 years, really trying to get Walmart and Jet combined to compete better with Amazon.
Yeah.
And,
well, when I liken that move as a pirate joining the Navy.
yeah. That's a great analogy.
I mean, when I saw that, I was like, "This is a pirate joining the Navy. What's going on here?" I've been to Bentonville. They used to be a client of mine, and I hope, I don't know this. I hope you didn't have to move to Bentonville.
I didn't move. It was 1 week a month,
Okay.
and it was quite an experience. I learned a ton. I mean,
They are the masters.
different experience. They're incredible operators, and I like to think I brought some innovation, and just the combination of innovation and operations. And if you can get that right balance, it becomes unstoppable, And I think that's the magic in any company, is how do you balance, day-to-day operations and profit with innovation and investment, and that's always the trade-off.
Right. Well, all of entrepreneurship are trade-offs. There's no solutions. You just got a bunch of trade-offs you got to make. I mean, time, money, risk, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people that say they want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, "Are you sure?" Let me just tell you, it sounds like it's fun, but it is brutal. It is. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be prepared to eat glass, because that's what you do on a regular basis. It's eat freaking glass every day.
It's kind of like this. I always say it's kind of like dog years. You think, like 1 year is like 7 years.
Yeah, and decisions have to get made in 1/7 the time as well. So
Exactly.
what happens is you can say, yeah, I can make decisions 1/7. I mean, 7 times as fast. But in reality, it imposes a lot of risk. The faster you make decisions, the more risk you take. It's just the way it is. That's why people make decisions at a certain cadence, because you're managing risk. Well, you don't have that opportunity in a startup. So if you're not comfortable with risk, forget it. Like, just, you got to work 100 hours a week. You got to be prepared to take risk. Got to be prepared to like change your mind, be wrong, fail, like all the things that people hate. You gotta like embrace it, and you gotta, it has to be core to your DNA. Otherwise, it's not something I'd recommend, because it is tough.
It's very tough, but the thing is I know it's tough, and I'm not on your level. I don't even think that I'm on your level. I don't even want to. I don't think I could function on your level of risk and everything. But what it does, what I tell everybody is, it's not only it kind of makes you feel like, I mean, every day you're doing this, you really feel like you're accomplishing something. You're on top of something. Now, you may be failing and you may be making mistakes and everything, but I don't think I was ever as alive as I was when I was doing startups. I was just alive.
Yeah, you could say that, definitely, because the alternative is actual death. So
financial ruin.
Yeah, you have to be alive.
You got to be alive. All right, now I want to talk about your current business right now. And I mean, I went online and I looked at the video, and it's wonder. I know you know about it and everything, but from what I understand, I was talking to Josh before you got on and everything. He said that you guys have changed things, and so I want you to just talk about I know you've made a pivot in the strategy and everything, and I'd love for you to just tell everybody what's going on, because this is amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm now 24/7 on this thing, and I'm all in. I've got a ton of my personal capital invested in it, and I think this is the big one. I really do. I think now's the time. So Wonder is a vertically integrated food delivery platform. So we know food delivery is exploding. People are cooking less. It's now a $100 billion market in the US, food delivery, and it's going to an expected $500 billion over the next 13 years. It feels a lot like the early days of e-commerce in terms of penetration rates. And I think the players out there doing delivery, I think, is subpar, in terms of their brokering, which makes it really tough to control the experience. It's hard to get hot food fast, on time, with great service. And so the idea for Wonder was, what if you vertically integrated and you actually owned all the restaurants on the delivery platform, and you cooked all the food yourself across every restaurant type? Now, easier said than done. We're in 2,800 square foot kitchen. We're on a path now to get 40 different restaurants cooked out of that same kitchen across every possible cuisine type. So think high end, the Bobby Flay steak and Jose Andres paella, down to burgers, barbecue, Mexican, everything in between, Chinese, Thai, Korean, Greek, Middle Eastern, every cuisine type, all out of this one kitchen. And the way we make that possible has been 5 years now of R&D, culinary engineering, and food science, to be able to cook all those restaurants on just 3 pieces of electric equipment. So there's no flames, there's no hoods. It's a high-speed convection oven, a water bath, and a ventless fryer. Those 3 pieces of equipment, we've managed to cook now 600 different meals across all those different restaurants in that same equipment. And we built all the technology, the cooking sequencing, the courier application, the courier routing, all the food manufacturing software, logistics software, the inventory management, forecasting, and machine learning algorithms. We built everything. So we really are end to end. We own the delivery network as well. And this kitchen has a front of house. It's maybe 10 tables. So it is on the high street. You can see it. You can come in. You could sit down and have something to eat. But most people, it's pick up and delivery. And the goal is to, eventually put thousands of these locations across the country. And so right now we're just in New York City. but we're rapidly expanding, and just very excited about the customer love we're seeing right now for this wonder.
Mr. Lore, this is a great idea. I saw your YouTube video with the trucks, with the kitchens, I'm sorry, mobile kitchens. And I understand that from the sound of things, you've decided to go a different way. You're going with the actual brick and mortar type of thing, right?
Yeah. So originally the idea was, why cook, then deliver? Because the food degrades. Why not drive there, then cook? Right. So we had these Mercedes Sprinter vans. We had 450 Mercedes Sprinter vans where the driver was the chef. And we made it so simple and put this equipment on the back of a Mercedes Sprinter van so that somebody can cook really high quality food really fast outside somebody's door. Mm-hmm. And it was working incredibly well. At the end of last year, we had 450 trucks on the road. It was profitable, doing really well. But at the same time, we had tested a brick and mortar. And what we found out is because we can put all the restaurants in the same brick and mortar, we can get so much revenue out of that location that we can set a really tight delivery radius. And because the radius was tight, we can actually replicate the same heat and quality that we could cooking outside somebody's door. But we also picked up the ability to have multi-restaurant ordering so people could order from multiple restaurants in a single checkout. So that was, by all accounts, a better customer value prop. But then the return on capital, the profitability of the brick and mortar was a lot higher than the trucks. And then finally, our ability to expand a lot faster was better with brick and mortar because we could put the brick and mortar into a shoe store and we can put it in urban, we can put it in suburban, we can put it in rural. The trucks really didn't work in urban. They really didn't work in rural. It was really more of a suburban play. So once we realized that like this brick and mortar was actually a superior business model, I had to make the tough decision on a dime within 24 hours. Once we realized this was the better model, I just told the entire company, the board, investors, everybody, we're shutting down the trucks. We're taking revenue to zero. We had gotten about 20 some million dollars of revenue, and we were going to shut it off, start over. Now, keep in mind, we've been going 4 years now. We had spent a lot of money invested in the R&D to be able to pull this off. But fortunately, all the R&D that we did was around culinary engineering and food tech. And we took all the technology and it unlocked the ability to put them in the brick and mortar. So the actual median of the truck versus brick and mortar, definitely cost us some time and money because we sold the trucks at a loss. But I still felt it was better to start over with a much superior model than continue with an inferior model in time and then make the change in the future. So you can imagine that wasn't an easy board meeting, wasn't an easy discussion. But listen, that's what I'm saying about eating glass. People probably thinking like, what does he mean eating glass? That's eating glass.
That's eating glass. Well, you got to go to a board and tell them that you want to change the whole.
You're jumping on the glass and you swallowed it and it's going down. Is it going to rip my guts open? Am I going to die or is it going to just flush through? You don't know until you get in there, And so I had the board meeting, told them what we're going to do, got the buy-in, and then just shut it down. And then 90 days later, we had our first brick and mortar open, which is unprecedented speed. Anybody will tell us, but we had to do it. And here we are like 10 months later, and we'll have 10 locations open next month. And they're doing incredibly well. It was the best move we ever could have made. And now we're on a trajectory. We're going to do 25 more next year, and we'll do another 55, really mostly in the tri-state area. And then we'll really start to blow this thing out. But
I love it. The thing is I mean, I can see the capital expense of those trucks had to be off the charts.
Yeah, you could say that.
I'm just saying it's like that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, the truck's about $100 million.
Ouch.
We didn't get all that back. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
I actually saw some of the meals and everything that were being prepared on this video, and I was really impressed.
Food is incredible. Yeah, it really is incredible. And the ability to order from multiple restaurants in a single delivery is such a competitive advantage. So it's working. I tell people, like, we were digging for silver and we found gold. I think as an entrepreneur, you cannot get too wed to your idea, especially early, because you're learning so much that every day, every new piece of information you have to take in and reevaluate your entire strategy. Hopefully the vision doesn't need to change, because the vision is so big that, it is what it is, but the strategy and how you're going to get there, you have to be open every day to new information. And, we were seeing new information and we reacted very quickly to it, but it's very easy to not react. The trucks were working. So if something's working, if you're digging and you're getting silver, you can just keep digging for silver and mining silver and be perfectly happy, create a size business. But, if you see gold, right, and you can dig for gold,
and it's 10 times more profitable.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you digging for silver? So it's easier said than done. It seems obvious now. Looking back, it was an incredible decision, but at the time, you could imagine, I didn't know those glass pieces going down, what was going to happen.
I love it. Okay. Well, I want to talk about, my students are interested in 3 things. And so I'm going to ask you, you can talk about this if you want to. I understand there are certain things that as an owner of an MBA team, you cannot discuss. And I am fully aware that you have the ability to cop out on this, but my students are NBA fans, and they want to, they're interested in this. They're interested in your take on the Timberwolves and everything like that. So the question that they ask is things like, how's the NBA looking? And what about the new TV deal? And how's that going to be negotiated? And how much money are you going to get on the TV deal? Now, you may not be able to speak for the whole league or anything, but anything that you could say about this wonderful.
I mean, all I can say, I can't give details, obviously, but I can say that, NBA is definitely the league of the future. I really believe it. It's progressive. It's, tech savvy. It is just very forward thinking and leaning, and the audience is young, and it's getting bigger every day. So I definitely, Alex Rodriguez and I, we bought the team together, but before that, we made a bid to buy the Mets, the New York Mets. And, we just lost out at the last second to Steve Cohen, but it was probably the luckiest loss of a deal that we possibly could have ever imagined, because, I think we were enamored with being from New York and a New York team and things like that, as opposed to Minnesota. But in terms of the league, it's not even close in terms of, where the league's heading, and the future is so much brighter and more profitable too. So it would have probably bankrupt both of us if we had bought the Mets.
Well, I know I'm not saying anything. It cost you about $1.5 billion to buy the Timberwolves, and I don't even know any more than that. Buying the Mets, I'm sure, was quite a bit more expensive. Yeah,
more expensive, and also burning a lot more money. So that was a real problem. It was the price. Yeah, it's more, but if it made money, it'd be okay. But the rate at which it was burning cash.
Baseball's having a tough time of it this year. I don't know what, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but they're having a tough year. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. All right. The other thing that they all want to know about, and once again, I understand there are constraints on what you can say with investors and everything, but Telosa, City of Future, everybody has read about that. And my students are primarily interested in where specifically is it going to be located? I know it's in the desert someplace in the West, but have you gotten any more closer to where it's going to be located? Or
the highest probability would probably be Arizona at this point. Okay. Like an hour and a half outside of Arizona. I mean, outside of Phoenix. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the leading contender. But this is much less about building a city of the future and more about testing a new model for society. So our mission at Telosa, it's a not-for-profit, it's a foundation, is to create a more equitable and sustainable future. And it's the fundamental, sort of thesis is that the land ownership is really the cause of all the problems we have in America with, so many people just barely getting by. And there's a book written, Progress and Poverty, by Henry George, who basically goes through the economic theory of this. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty logical. It's, if you're a landowner and there's a finite amount of land, people are charging for the land such an amount until it's extracted all the profit before people are willing to work. And then they, find some equilibrium. So it's by definition always going to be extract enough profit out of the system so that people are just barely willing to work, so it never get better. And so my thought was, what if the foundation owned this worthless land, which is, the desert is worthless. So the foundation owns the land, and the foundation vows to give back all the earnings of the land when we get 5 million people to move there, give back all the appreciation of the land back to the community, back to the people in the form of advanced social services. Mm-hmm. So let's say the handshake is, right now you're a person, you move to a city, you don't get anything. There's no benefit, right? Well, the handshake here with citizens would be, hey, let's get 5 million people to move to this desert. We'll build the city. It will immediately, that land will be immediately worth $500 billion if 5 million people move there. That 500 billion will earn, call it $25 billion a year in interest. That $25 billion a year will be invested in the residents of that city in the form of, free education, affordable housing, free medical care. Like, you'd be able to do so much without having to charge any taxes. Mm-hmm. That's really the tug and pull right now. People want more services. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. What if you could have both? These incredible, services of a social democratic country without having to pay any more taxes. And so that really is just simply by, giving back the appreciation of the land that was caused by the citizens. That's what gave the land value. It's the fact that 5 million people wanted to move there is what turned a desert into, hundreds of thousands of dollars an acre of value. So why not give that back to the people? Instead, the way it started, was people were just claiming land back in the day, right? Or given land, and not everyone had equal access to that land. And that is just perpetuated, a society where there's a big class of people that are barely getting by. And I think this has the chance to fix that. And so we thought that'll definitely make things more equitable. But if we're going to build the city from scratch, let's also make it the most sustainable city in the world, since we're doing it from scratch. And that's where we sort of got this joint mission of being the most equitable and sustainable city. So it's not really about the city. We're certainly doing a lot of research on, how to create soul in a city if you're building from scratch, and how to create a sense of community and values. And so we're starting with people at the center. There will be technology. So, cars will all be autonomous because it's easier to build autonomous cars when you're starting from scratch. And they'll be, it'll be like super safe and use all modern technology to keep people safe there, and things like that we can learn from other cities. Making really smart use of water and resources like that. So it'll be a really advanced city from a technology standpoint, but it's not starting like a lot of these cities do with technology in mind. It's starting with people and core values and a soul. And that's the hard part. And that's where we're focused all our time right now, is like, how to do that.
The impetus is, though, you're going to have a trust or something to actually buy the land at first, right? And the people that invest that would be whoever the investors and everything in the city would actually buy the land, and then this land would be
a charity would do it. Yeah, the Colosso Foundation is a charity. Mm-hmm. Colosso Foundation would buy the land,
right?
And would get contractors to build residences, infrastructure, and so it would be it would be, again, the foundation would be the one doing the marketing to get people signed up to want to live there, because they're going to get the social benefits of moving there. Mm-hmm. And then because we have the people willing to move there, we can get then people for profit to come in and actually build homes and build retail and things like that. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. But that's what the foundation's purpose is to make that happen.
I understand it's kind of like, I'm an economist by training, so I'm familiar with it's kind of like a land tax, if I'm not mistaken, the way this is set up. And then the great thing about a land tax is there's no inefficiencies. It's a very efficient way to collect. I don't want to say taxes. That's not the way it is, but if
the thing is, it's not even a tax, because like the foundation that owns the land would be leasing the land to like a general contractor or somebody who would typically buy the land and build a tower or something. Like there's no taxes. It would just be fair market value for access to the land. And then eventually the foundation would just sell the land. Like once the land is worth 500 billion, then the foundation is just selling the land, taking the cash, and then creating an endowment that just invests in stocks and bonds and things like that. So it's not meant to be a tax at all, because it is the fair market value that people pay now for land. It's just the ownership is different. Instead of the money being made by, wealthy real estate entrepreneurs, it's made by the foundation, which then gives the money back to the people. So that's the only difference.
Okay.
It's a little hard to explain in a short time.
Well, we need a whiteboard. we both ought to do this in front of a whiteboard sometime. That would be fascinating. Yeah. The last thing I know we're pressed for time, and I don't want to keep you up. This is a real quick one because I'm interested in this. I would love the idea of an air taxi service in Archer Aviation. So when can I expect I want to know when I can expect my air taxi?
Yeah, so I think there's a good chance that in the next 24 months, there'll be places in the U.S. where you can go and take your eVTOL, as we call it, electric vertical takeoff and landing, get in your Archer, and basically take off and go to, the nearest airport. I think, one of the potential use cases would be, New York City to Kennedy or LaGuardia Airport, something like that. So I think it's going to start with, 20, 30 mile trips where there's like a ton of traffic and could take an hour and a half or 2 hours just to go that short distance. And the air taxi is much cheaper. It's environmental, it's safer, and it's the future.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's coming. 24 months, there'll be a place that you'll be able to go and get in one of these electric eVTOLs.
I love it. I'm a klutzy driver, so maybe this will help me out. I won't be bumping into stuff and things.
Oh yeah, you'll just go fly right over it.
Fly right over. All right. Listen, I want to thank you so much for taking this time. Our students, I appreciate it. My students are going to love this, and I can't tell you how happy I am that you joined us. Anytime that you want to do another video or another meeting, we're up for it. Just name the time and the place.
All right.
And so thank you again, and good luck. Good luck with all of it. Good luck with
some great
Thunder. Good luck with Archer. Good luck with the Timberwolves, and good luck with Tolosa.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And good luck to you. And
thank you.
Great night.
Okay, so that was the interview. I did get to hit a few of the things I got to talk about. I tried to talk about the Timberwolves a little bit. I tried to talk about I talked about Wonder quite a bit, but Tolosa, and I talked a little bit about Archer Aviation. And as I said, the PR people cut out a lot of the questions that I really wanted to ask, but I think we got a pretty good feel for things. What I'd like to emphasize on all of this is that Marc Lore is what I call a real serial entrepreneur, and he is involved in a different way of thinking than say me. I was an entrepreneur and I started businesses and everything, and I did pretty well. But where he's different. He's looking for these huge, I guess you would say, opportunities, just tremendous opportunities. Like Wonder, he's already raised $50 million just in venture capital funding for this one startup. And he's planning on having 1,000 of these restaurants throughout the United States. And so he's raised 50, and he's pitching again, as he said in the video. He's gonna make another 150 pitches over the next 5 to 6 weeks. He's going to be doing 30 pitches a week, asking venture capital firms for capital, which is an incredible amount of money. I imagine he's probably looking to raise another $100 million to see this through the next valuation. So I hope everybody got to, get an appreciation for what type of I guess you would say, dimensions that he's involved in. These are huge endeavors. Tolosa, the city that he's building in Arizona or wherever, he expects to put in at least $400 billion over the next 20 or 30 years. So that's another big chunk of change. What I'd like to do now is open it up to you guys. Any questions that you have? Obviously, I can't speak for Mr. Lore, or I can't speak for Mark, but I'll try to comment on anything or maybe talk about anything that you guys might feel is important. So sure, go ahead. Drew? Yeah. I'll answer mine, and then I'll try to, not that I think that, he's like me or anything like that. I sold my first business and I made enough money so that I never had to work again, given my lifestyle. Now, if I had a lifestyle like his, I probably would have to work again. But given my general lifestyle, I never had to work again. And I was 50. And then I did it again. And the second time I did it again was because I just loved it. Like I said, it wasn't the money, although the money was important. It was the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of getting through this, the feeling of being alive. I mean, there are certain times in your life when you know that you're never going to, have these experiences again, like having children. You know you're alive when you have children, because you've got somebody that you're responsible for the rest of their lives. That's a moment that's a big moment in your life. But there are other moments. If you're on a sports team and you're putting on a play, or you're part of a great, like I look at my father's generation when they went away for World War II. They're never going to be as alive as they were when they were fighting in Germany or someplace like that. Okay, they're never going to be that again. And those are things that you really cherish. And if you can do them again, maybe you don't want to fight another war. That might not be a good idea. But if you can do another startup and get that feeling again, that's what that really does push you forward, or at least it did for me. And I'm sure that's why he's doing it. Now, I think there are different things that he's looking at. Like, for example, I think Wonder is to make money. Okay? I think Wonder is a pure cash play. But I think his Tolosa is not a cash play. I think that's a more of a, I want to change society. I think society is, we need to change some things about society and make it a little bit more fair for people. And I think that's his big thing there. At least it was when the little amount of time I got to speak with him off camera, I asked him briefly about it, and that's the feeling I got. So I think that's what's driving him there. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Let's. This is a great. This. I can tell you right now. I've got a. All right. One of the big things about capitalism. Okay, and we're all capitalists here, hopefully. So I'm preaching to the choir. I hope I hope everybody's in the church of capitalism. So as a preacher up here, an evangelical preacher, the whole thing about capitalism is private property ownership. In other words, one of the big issues about that people critique capitalism on is ownership of private property. Okay, that's a big thing. And there was this economist in the 19th century. He mentioned him. His name was Henry George. He came up with this new way of looking at wealth and poverty. In fact, the name of his book was Progress and Poverty, or Poverty and Progress. And he came up with this economic model called Georgism. And in Georgism, he feels as though the whole essence of wealth is determined by who owns land, property. And so he came up with this way of starting a society that is not where you don't have private property ownership, and that the property is owned jointly by everyone. And the model that he's going to be using in his, Tolosa, is that a foundation or a charity will buy this 150,000 acres of land. And nobody will own the land. No one will own the land. But the land, if you want to build something on the land, like apartments or a house or a shopping center or retail or whatever you want to build, you have to lease the land. And you have to pay a lease payment. And you pay it to this charity. And then the charity takes the proceeds from this land and redistributes it to the members of the community. So they'll be able to afford free health care and free education and all this stuff. Okay, so that's in a basic, and I'm making this, not making it very complex. I'm making it very simple. But that's basically what it is. But the problem is you've got to raise the money to buy the land. That's number one. And you got to buy 150,000 acres of land. And then you've got the problem of, okay, the people that first move in there are going to have to be fairly wealthy in order to, move in and afford things, right? And then there's other issues like zoning, and there's other issues like water. There's no water in the desert. And there's things like energy, and there's a lot of things that have not been addressed, in the plan so far. Yeah. Yes. As the land, that's the whole essence of this. As the land increases in value because more people are moving there, the leasing cost will increase with the value of the land. So let's just say that the land is valued at $100 an acre, when everybody first moves there, okay? Well, if it goes up to $500 an acre, your, fair land value, then the lease payments are going to go up. And then so on. So the lease payments will be rising with the value of the land, and that's how they're going to be able to afford more benefits for it's starting out with 50,000 people, and then it's going to eventually have 5 million people in this city, according to their website. So yes, the lease payments will be going up as the value of the land goes up. Yes. Okay. The question is, how do you get to pitch angel investors, and how do you find them, and things like that? First of all, as we discussed, you never pitch in a group. Never. Okay, we were talking about it. You only pitch one-on-one, because if you're in a group and one person, doesn't like it, they'll poison the well of everybody else in the room. Now, how do you get into the pitch angel investors? I'm an angel investor. I sit in on pitches all the time. All the time. Okay, when I first moved here, I had a bunch of cash that hit my bank account. And the bank had to report it to the FBI because I looked like a drug dealer. I wasn't a drug dealer, but I'd sold a bunch of assets. I'd sold a house, I'd sold some other stuff, and all this money hit my account here in Shippensburg. And so the bank had to report this to the DEA and the FBI and everything, and that's cool. Well, they called me up and they said, what's going on here? And I said, well, I sold some assets. And they said, oh, that's fine. We reported you, but it's all going to be taken care of. And I said, fine. And then the guy said, he was a banker, he said, it looks like you have some resources. And that's a nice way of saying it, okay. And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, would you be interested in, listening to entrepreneurial pitches? And I said, yes. And so if you want to find out how to contact angel investors, you contact people like bankers, you contact people like attorneys, CPAs, things like that. These people run into high net worth individuals all the time. And there is, I know several in this area. I know 5 or 6 angel investors that listen to pitches all the time. Now, what you generally do is you find a network of them, and they're in a lot of communities. The bigger the community, the bigger the network. Shippensburg is not a beehive for angel investors. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's probably maybe 10 in this particular area. But you can find them. And the point is this. You'll probably be asked to submit a business plan or a pitch deck. And you can do that with a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. Have them sign it, which they will. If they're a legitimate angel investor, they'll do it without problem at all. You put in a non-compete, non-compliance agreement, non-compete, non-disclosure agreement, they'll sign it. And you pitch them one-on-one. And that's generally how it's done. Like he said, his hit rate is 1 out of 12. That's pretty good. I'd say for most angel investors, for most entrepreneurs, they may pitch 20 to get one. It's a lot. You may have to pitch 50 times to get enough, investors to back your firm. Anybody else? We're getting ready. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right. We've got some people here that are going to talk about gifts. And, we've got some winners and things like that. I'm going to get off the stage.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. First of all, let's go ahead and give Shelly a round of applause. He's been our interviewer this semester. Just so you guys know, this is our last one for this semester, but we will be back here on January 29th. Mark your calendars. I know you're all dying to come back. All right? All right. We do have door prizes tonight. So, our door prizes tonight are a book, a gift card, and our new T-shirts. If you haven't seen the new shirts, they're hot off the press. Brandon, you know what? I can hold it up, but Brandon's wearing it. He's going to show you guys the newest shirt. Entrepreneur Nutrition Facts, designed by our very own Mackenzie Good. And our winners tonight are Caitlin Murray, Bailey, and Jess Sabitsky. And if you weren't a winner of a shirt here with the door prizes, we do still actually have some in the back. So if you want to give the prize wheel a second spin, we'll allow it. And you're free to go.